5 crazy knives that only crazy people carry. Let's get it. Starting the list off, we have the MAXACE XI, which is absolutely a crazy knife. The blade shape is wicked in itself, an S110V with an inlay in the blade of S110V of carbon fiber. Then you have this really thick, robust, heavy-duty titanium frame lock with an inlay of carbon fiber that has an inlay of Damascus, and that is on both sides. And then it has a wave feature, so when you're pulling it out of your pocket, you can rapidly deploy it. So while you're pulling it out of your pocket, it will open up and deploy, because this is somewhat of a self-defense knife. You know, it's very ergonomic, very pokey, but very robust. You're not gonna have to worry about breaking the blade or anything. I know it's S110V, which, you know, is a super hard steel and, you know, isn't a tough steel, but with this geometry, it's gonna be plenty tough. But if you're walking around carrying this as your regular everyday carry, I think not only that's awesome, but it definitely, you know, you're definitely leaning towards the crazy side, right? And I know you guys are thinking like, well, aren't these all your knives? Well, next would be the up knife. Now you can say the up knife Psi or the up knife Dagger. So this is a gravity knife. It's very difficult to show you guys under the camera, so I'll have to throw in a bunch of B-roll, but it has a sharpened dagger in, well, I think it's 440A steel for the dagger, and then an aluminum handle. Now there is other versions of this with other materials, and you can go on his website. I will link it down in the description, but they are basically throwing daggers, EDC throwing daggers that are also gravity knives. So, and the thing is that you wouldn't think that this thing would be as strong as it is, because it does have a little bit of play, but it absolutely sticks. When you throw it, it doesn't fail, it sticks deep, and you know, it actually is pretty easy to throw too, you know, considering the balance and just the shape and everything. Closed up, you know, I'm sure it's still effective to some degree, maybe. I mean, I don't know. But opened up, it's definitely a thrower and definitely sticks pretty easily. A gravity Psi, I never thought I'd ever see a gravity Psi in my life. But they do exist. And hey, it's pretty cool. But like I said, man, if you're walking around carrying something like this in your pocket or in your jacket or whatever, I'm not even sure exactly how you'd carry it, maybe in your belt, something like that. Yeah, you're a madman. You are an absolute madman. But I wonder if he has made or is going to make some sheaths for these, because that'd be kind of cool to have something on the belt, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to provoke your guys' craziness right now. Anyways, these things are awesome. They actually work really good, surprisingly good. And yeah, and he's got some other interesting things coming, hopefully soon. Let's get to the next one. The Dagger, what the heck's the name of this? The Dagger VORON. VORON. It is an absolute monster Wharncliffe. And it is a giant frame lock. Like, look at this. It's a huge frame lock. This thing's massive. The flipper tab works good. It has really good quality jipping on the spine. This D2 blade, you know, this Wharncliffe D2 blade is super pokey, definitely good at utility cutting. And this thing will work like a beast. I mean, it will definitely work good for cutting purposes. But it's just an absolute monster. You know, and then you got that clip, the dagger style clip, which I think is pretty cool. You can technically reverse flick it, or at least I can, but the flipper tab does work good. Extremely ergonomic because it's so big. Now, the frame lock, you know, I kind of, I don't know, I kind of wish it was a little tiny bit more robust, but it's actually more robust than it looks. But it's fine though. When you're squeezing it, you're definitely applying more pressure, making it locked up even stronger. Now, I will say that there is 2 other knives that I would put right here next to this. And that would be the Dagger PARROT and the Dagger Nestor. I do have both of those. I just don't have them pulled out right now. But they are button lock giant knives, like near 5-inch blades. I think the one does have a 5-inch blade, or at least very close to it. So they're absolute monsters as well that would happily sit right next to this one. So if you're carrying one of those or this, you know, you already know the deal about yourself. They're pretty awesome. I will say I had a boss that I actually got one for because these are made in Russia, and he, you know, was born in Russia and everything, and he loved it because he was looking for a 4-inch, this speaks to the crazy, right? He wanted at least a 4-inch dagger knife. And, you know, dagger knives, like what's better? You know, they're made in Russia, and, you know, it has a huge long blade right up his alley. And yeah, so I got it for him. Let's get to the next one. Before we get to the last two, I do want to throw out a couple honorable mentions, starting off with the LPC, because I don't think you've completely lost your marbles if you're carrying this. It is very awesome. All the knives on this list are awesome, but this is the LPC, and originally this one did have a little bit of lock rock in my first impressions. That's completely went away. This thing is vault-like now. I just had to open it and close it, you know, a few dozen more times than what the video was, because I did open it up a bunch of times, and it didn't seem like it was going away, but then after using it and everything, it just completely went away. This thing is rock solid. And it is a titanium frame lock, G10 on this side, and then S35 VN. Now, the thing that's crazy about this is, well, one, you can just look at it, but the blade on this thing is super robust. I mean, thick, thick, thick. So this isn't a knife you're carrying around to be a heavy-duty cutter. This is definitely a tough or a purpose-driven knife, whether it's for self-defense purposes, which I do think it would work good. It's kind of like in a pistol grip shape, so, you know, you can punch with it. But, you know, the geometry of it is so robust. You know, it's never going to be a slicer or, you know, a great cutter. It's going to be a great poker, and then something you can be tough on, you know, maybe a little bit tougher on your edge. Maybe you can do a little bit of light duty chopping or something with it. You know, obviously you can still cut with it. I'm not saying it won't cut, because it obviously will cut just fine. These are made in Taiwan, and, you know, they do scream, you're on the verge of crazy if you're carrying this around. And listen, I love it. I love it. I definitely carried it. The next one is, for the honorable mentions, is the BESTECH FAIRCHILD. I'll be honest, I love this knife. I absolutely love this knife, but I do feel like a madman when I'm carrying it. And I don't carry it as much as I'd like because of how big it is. It is super big. This thing, like, I can get a full grip right back there. So, you know, there's just so much handle hanging out of your hand. The blade is super useful. Don't get me wrong. This thing is extremely useful, and it works really good for an EDC knife. But it's so monstrous and just massive. Like, when you pull this out, you know, it definitely gets attention, right? Now, like I said, this is just an honorable mention. You know, I don't think you've completely lost your marbles with this one. But like I said, you're on the verge, definitely on the verge. But it is awesome. We have S35 VN, I believe. Yeah, S35 VN titanium frame lock. It does come in a couple different color options, and super smooth. Fantastic action. Like, this thing is very, very premium, very, very well done. And if you like big knives, if you like large knives, check this out. I'm telling you, this is a good one, a great one. Now, number 4 is the Medford USMC Fighter Folder or Fighter Flipper. This does pay homage to the K-Bar, which is a fixed blade. This is a folding knife, and so it's kind of a folding version of that, or at least pays homage to it. You know, with the titanium handle, it kind of looks like the leather wrapped handle of the K-Bar. Beautiful drop point blade with a nice hollow grind. It actually has really good geometry for how robust it is. It is definitely robust. It's definitely for hard use, and it is definitely a brick. This thing is heavy. When you carry this around, like, you know you're carrying this. Like, it's not like you just lose it in your pocket. You know you have this in your pocket. It is very heavy, but that's kind of the purpose, right? That's the point. The point is that this is a tough knife. This is, I guess you could say, kind of a combat knife, something like that. And the butt end of it, this is all titanium. Then the butt end is a titanium basher for hitting things. The flipper tab does stop you from sliding up, but the blade geometry is actually pretty good. So considering how, you know, decently good the ergonomics are, I mean, it does feel squared off, but it's relatively comfortable. And with this hollow grind, it does pass through materials really good. Now, this isn't, you know, your everyday carry knife for sure. And the people that aren't everyday carrying this, obviously they've lost their minds, but you know, it doesn't stop it from being super duper awesome. 100% USA made. I do have a full review on this, by the way, so I've obviously carried it. Let's get to the last one, number 5. Now, it is impossible to carry this knife unless if you've absolutely lost your mind. And that is the Titanus from MAXACE. The MAXACE Titanus. This thing is an absolute monster. I mean, look at this thing. This thing is crazy. You know, kind of like we were talking about the Fairchild, like look at how much room you have in this handle. But this blade is so thick, so robust. Everything's in premium materials, so that's another thing. I mean, this thing is in M390 steel. Listen to that lockup. Oh, and by the way, it has a pin you can put in right there to prevent it from folding on you if you did want to chop with it or do hard use stuff with it. The lockup is super strong. I love the way they did their lock bar, and this thing is an absolute guillotine. This is a finger chopper. If you put your finger there and it closes, oh, you're gonna get cut. The fuller and hole work great. It has a really cool sound to it. I love it. The hardware, it comes with all extra hardware, and look at that pivot. It does come with the tool for the pivot too. Ah, see, I already got myself. got myself in this corner. Anyways, this thing is so crazy, badass, and I absolutely love it, but I've definitely been known to have already lost my mind, so, you know, it's obviously right up my alley. Man, this thing is crazy. But anyways, look at the stop pin inside there. Look at how big that stop pin is. And that's just the closing stop pin. So it kind of just, you know, adds strength right there. Because the real stop pin is right here, these thumb studs. So you can use them too. The whole deployment works really good. Anyways, like I said, you know. But before we go, just to give you an idea of how big this is the Fairchild. The Fairchild is dwarfed by this guy. Here is the Medford, absolutely dwarfed. And look, I have it the opposite way. So if it was this way, it really shows how big it is. You know, when this one's closer to you, it can't even fit in the screen. Maybe I should back this thing out a little bit. But yeah, this thing looks like a toy now. And this thing's a monster. Anyways, so work hard, stay tough. You know society's relying on you. Until next time, peace.